Hello learners, welcome to another studio. This is live PM E-Vidya program of Environmental Science, Senior Secondary course of NIOS. I am Nilam Gupta, course coordinator of this subject. Welcome you all in this program. Dear learners, we have already discussed in our previous about health and environmental health, and during that program we have discussed about problems related to sanitation and habitation, as well as different modes of spreading waterborne diseases caused by pathogen, vectors and chemical pollutants. We also touch upon that various air pollutants, those are responsible for various health hazards in agriculture sector, cottage industries and other mining and industries, other industries too. We have also discussed in brief about cancer and carcinogens and how can they control. So during this program we will discuss diseases that is caused by heavy metal toxicity and what are the methods to they prevent and how different occupational hazards have adverse effect on our health while working in mines, textiles, cement, chemical and paper industries. So this is part 2. And lesson is the same, environment and health. This is lesson number 11. So what we are discussing during that program, we have already given a brief idea. So we will discuss disease caused due to heavy metal toxicity and methods of their prevention, different kinds of occupational health hazards and different ways by which humans get exposed to air, basically allergies, pollution hazard while working in mines, textiles, cement, chemical and paper industries, and allergies too. So we know heavy metals are naturally occurring elements that have high atomic weight and a density that at least 5 times greater than that of water. And there are multiple industrial applications, domestic, agriculture, medical and technological applications. These metals have led to their wide distribution in the environment, raising concern over their potential effects on human health and the environment. So toxicity of heavy metal depends on the dose, route of exposure, chemical composition, age, gender, genetics and nutritional status of exposed individual. So due to their extreme toxicity, arsenic, cadmium, chromium, lead and mercury are classified as priority metal of major public health concern, and these elements are considered systemic toxicants that are known to induce multiple organ damage even at lower level of exposure, and they are also responsible or known to cause cancer in humans. So apart from losses to the environment resulting from the mining waste and primary processing, many of these metals are utilized in products as they are inherently dissipated. Examples of such uses include fuel, lubricants, solvents, fire retardants, stabilizers, flocculants, pigments, biocides and preservatives. So it is necessary to ban or discourage the dissipative uses of these hazardous heavy metals, and we can also increase the efficiency of recycling of those materials that are not replaceable in principle. So we can say heavy metal are already said natural occurring element with high atomic weight and densities that can be toxic to organisms to elevate their concentrations, and sources and cycling within the soil, water, air to organisms, ecosystem involve complex interaction influenced by natural processes and human activities too. So there are two sources, natural and anthropogenic sources of heavy metals that is originated. So natural sources include geological weathering, volcanic activities, forest fire, sea water and marine sediments and geothermal activities. So when we talk about geological weathering, so rocks containing heavy metals undergo weathering due to wind, water and temperature variations, gradually releasing these metals into the environment. Volcanic activity, volcanic eruption releases heavy metals like mercury, arsenic, lead into the atmosphere and surrounding ecosystems. Forest fires also releases metals stored in the plants into the air and soil. Oceans contain trace amount of heavy metal which can accumulate in marine organisms. And hot spring and geothermal vents releases metal like zinc and copper from deep within the earth. Anthropogenic sources include industrial activity, agricultural activities, waste disposal, and transportation and fossil fuel consumption. So, industrial activities includes mining, smelting, metal processing, releases large amount of heavy metals, and agriculture practices also play a role. We use fertilizers, pesticides, and sewage sludge in farming. Introduce like metals like arsenic, zinc into the soil and water. Landfills and improper disposal of electronic waste, batteries, and medical waste contribute to heavy metal contamination. And vehicles and factories imitate gases from fuel combustion, releases lead, nickel, and other metals into the air. Wastewater discharges are also important resource like industrial wastewater and domestic sewage that also contains heavy metals. And urban development and construction industry also uses cement, paints, and urban runoff. The little amount of metals also like chromium and zinc at higher trophic level and those surrounding ecosystems. So, human exposure, when we talk about, so these metals enters into human body through the food chain. Through food chain, the waste, contaminated food, water, air, and direct contact, posing risk of health. And cycling of heavy metal also is the circulation in ecosystem. It undergoes continuous transformation and movement through different environmental resources like soil, water, air, and organisms. So, what are the health and implementation related to health and environment by inducing heavy metals? So, soil contamination reduces our crop productivity and affects microbial diversity. Water pollution leads to toxic effect on aquatic animals and organisms and drinking water resources. Airborne heavy metals contribute to respiratory issues and environmental degradation. Although bioaccumulation in food chains increases toxicity risks for humans and wildlife, and mitigation resources measures like soil remediation, pollution control technology, sustainable agriculture practices, and stricter industrial regulations can help to reduce heavy metal contamination and its harmful impact on life. So, next we will talk about how heavy metals can reach in soil, air, and water. It is in form of cycling. We can say cycling. So, heavy metals enters into the air, water, and soil through various processes including industrial activities, fuel combustion, agriculture practices such as the use of fertilizers and pesticides as we already talked about, and natural weathering of rocks in the earth crust. So, this result in environmental contamination. So, when heavy metal mix with air, they can adversely affect birds if they accumulate in the soil. Plants, domestic animals, and humans may also suffer harmful effect, and contamination of water bodies leads to toxic exposure to aquatic life, so the fish further disrupting ecosystem. So, this is a cycle. This cycle shows that it should be that content of metal in tissue generally build up from left to right, indicating the vulnerability to human to human heavy metal toxicity. Next, we talk about different heavy metals toxic effect, which are major threat of our health, and we will talk about lead, mercury and arsenic during this program. First, we will talk about lead toxicity. Lead interferes with body processes and is toxic to many organs and tissues, including heart, bone, intestine, kidney, reproductive and nervous system too. It interferes with the development of the nervous system and is therefore particularly toxic to children, causing potentiality permanent learning and behavior disorders. Lead enters the atmosphere from automobile exhaust. TEL, tetraethyl lead, was added to petrol as an anti-knock agent for smooth running automobile engines. TEL is now been replaced by other anti-knock compounds to prevent emission of lead by automobiles, and lead in petrol is being phased out by introduction of lead-free petrol. Many industrial processes use lead and it is often released as a pollutant, and battery scrap also contain lead, and it can mix with water, mixed up with water and food and create cumulative poisoning. So this is the lead toxicity. So there are several Indian cities, those are at risk of lead content found in their water. Cities like Kolkata, Kochi, Mumbai, Pune, Nagpur are at alarming risk of lead toxicity. Delhi, Coimbatore, Madurai are at high risk level. In case of Chennai, Ludhiana, Jamshedpur are at the medium risk. Cities like Bangalore, Ahmedabad at low risk. And second slide leads to the symptoms of the lead poisoning. In case of children, it may be irritability, loss of appetite, weight loss, sluggishness and fatigue, abdominal pain, vomiting, constipation and learning difficulties. When we talk about the adults, there are several symptoms like high BP, declines in mental functioning, pain, membranes tangling in the extremities, muscular weakness, mood disorder, memory loss and many others. So now we talk about the mercury toxicity. Mercury poisoning, also known as hygriglia or mercuryism, is a type of metal poisoning and a medical condition caused by exposure to mercury or its compounds. And we also know that mercury is a heavy metal occurring in several forms that can cause death with less than a gram. Mercury, famous example is Kodaikanal mercury poisoning, is a well chronicle case of toxic pollution anywhere in the world. So when we talk about mercury, it is a natural occurring metal, but in certain forms and amount it can be highly toxic to humans, and its toxic effect depend on the type of mercury exposure, may be elemental, inorganic or organic. Mercury is released into the air from industrial sources and eventually settles into air, soil and water, and in aquatic environment, soil bacteria convert mercury to methyl mercury and is very highly toxic form. So when in aquatic system, when fish consume some amount of mercury, small fish is a small organism, they absorb methyl mercury, leading to gradual accumulation in their body over the time when humans consume. So how can body affect? So when human consume that fish, nervous system damage, mercury is basically harmful to brain and nerves especially. It can cause tumors, memory problem, irritability, anxiety, and in severe cases, permanent neurological damage. Children and unborn babies are particularly vulnerable with risk of developmental delays and cognitive impairment. Other systems are also affected when mercury is in the body. The system can be digestive and immune system. So when we talk about digestive and immune system issues, mercury can irritate stomach and intestine, leading to nausea, vomiting, and abdominal pain, and it may also weaken the immune system over time. Our excretory system can also affected by mercury poisoning. Inorganic mercury compound can accumulate in the kidney, potentially leading to kidney failure. Respiratory problem, skin and eye irritation, and reproductive harm is also have possibilities to damage due to the mercury exposure. When we inhale mercury vapor, they can cause coughing, shortness of breath, and chest pain. Contact with mercury salt can cause rashes, redness, and eye irritation. And if during pregnancy, mercury exposure leads to miscarriage, premature birth, or developmental issue in the body. When human consume contaminated fish, we already discussed. So methyl mercury enters the body, posing serious health risk. And so now we talk about another heavy metal, that is arsenic. And this is arsenic poisoning can occur through various sources, but primarily sources contaminated groundwater, industrial processes, and certain foods. So we are talking about arsenic toxicity. Arsenic poisoning is caused by elevated levels of arsenic in body. Cause of arsenic poisoning is from groundwater, which is often due to naturally occurring high concentration of arsenic in deeper level of groundwater. And it is a high profile problem due to the use of deep tube wells for water supply. So this is the process. Arsenic leaching is the process by which arsenic is released from solid materials into liquid medium, often due to environmental or industrial conditions. This can occur naturally in soil and groundwater or be induced through the metallurgical processes. So arsenic leaching may be natural leaching or industrial leaching. It may be hydrometallurgical methods and doing mass processes. So arsenic poisoning can have severe effect on human health, especially with long-term exposure. It primarily occurred through contaminated drinking water, food, and industrial exposure. So now we will talk about the health impact of arsenic poisoning. This is the figure. There are some acute symptoms like short-term exposure to high levels of arsenic can cause nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, and abdominal pain. Skin disorder can also due to arsenic. Chronic exposure leads to skin darkening, lesion, and hard patches on the palm and sole. Arsenic is confirmed carcinogen, increasing the risk of skin, lung, bladder, and kidney cancers. Cardiovascular issues, if we have long-term exposure, is related to heart disease and high blood pressure. It can impair cognitive development, especially in children, and memory loss and confusion. Arsenic exposure has been associated with diabetes and respiratory problems. So there are several sources of exposure. First, contaminated water. And groundwater in several countries like India, Bangladesh, China contain high level of arsenic. Food and crops are also, so if we irrigate crop with arsenic contaminated water, and tobacco consumption can also contribute to exposure. Arsenic is used in glass production, textile and pesticides, increasing occupational risk too. So now we will talk about the effects of cadmium on health, human health especially. So cadmium is widely and increasingly used in industries of corrosion, protection coating, nickel, cadmium batteries and several other appliances or applications. So it may enter the aquatic and ambient environment as a toxic pollutant from various anthropogenic sources like mining, various industries, electroplating, phosphate fertilizers and batteries. These are sources. So when cadmium contamination of fish and endemic bone disease like itai reported from Japan, where several hundred of people were affected, was the main cause of concern. So cadmium intrusion to the environment can be abated and controlled by adoption of various alternative options regarding emissions and effluents through adoption of clean technology and implementation of stipulated environmental standards. So cadmium toxicity is a serious health concern, especially in industrial settings or area with environmental contamination. And is a sources of cadmium is battery, pigment, plastics and fertilizers, and exposure can through inhalation, ingestion or even skin contact. So cadmium also affects our various body parts like kidney. If cadmium accumulates in kidney over the time, leading to irreversible damage, and it can impair the kidney's ability to filter waste, so potentially causing kidney failure. Long-term exposure weaknesses bones, causing condition of osteomalacia and osteoporosis. Inhaling cadmium fumes can cause flu-like symptoms, coughing, chest pain, and in severe cases pulmonary edema. Cadmium toxicity also impacts various several human systems like digestive systems, cancer risks, reproductive and developmental risk. Ingesting cadmium contaminated food or water may lead nausea, vomiting. Cadmium is classified as human carcinogen. If long-term exposure increases the risk of lung and prostate cancer. Cadmium can affect fertility and may harm fetal development if exposure occurs during pregnancy. And common sources of exposure include cigarette smoke, contaminated food, industrial emissions, and improper disposal of electronic waste. So, as we see in the figure, you can see several sources and pathways of calcium toxicity and sources of problem. So, most of the people. So, now we move next section. So, we must not forget the occupational safety and health. Is also referred to as workplace health and safety is an area concerned with the safety, health and welfare of the people engaged in work or employment. So, most people spend the largest proportion of their waking hours at the workplace, and many, however, often undertake agricultural or cottage industries activity within the home or in the field. So, goals of occupational safety and health programs include to foster a safe and healthy work environment. An occupational health hazard is a hazard experienced in the workplace which include chemical hazard, biological hazard, psychological hazard and physiological hazards. in favorable circumstances, work contributes to good health and economic achievement for some time. A work environment exposes them to health hazards that contribute to injuries, respiratory diseases, cancer, musculoskeletal disorders, reproductive disorders, cardiovascular diseases, mental and neurological illness, hearing loss. So these hazards are termed occupational health hazards being associated with occupation. So scientific studies indicate that occupational health hazard or diseases are prevalent among workers involved in heavy physical activities. So workers who are exposed to heavy physical work loads are minor lumberjacks, construction worker, farmer, fishermen, storage worker and healthcare personnel. Repetitive tasks and static muscular load can lead to injuries and musculoskeletal disorders and may result in short-term and permanent work disability. So unshielded machinery, unsafe structure and dangerous tools are some of the most prevalent workplace hazards, and one of the most common occupational disease is asthma, which we have already discussed in our previous program, and second disease is black lung disease. In coal mining areas, coal dust is the main air pollutant to which miners are exposed every day. So we will talk about black lung disease. Deposits of coal dust make miners' lungs looks black instead of a healthy pink, and hence the name black lung disease. And common name is pneumoconiosis or anthracosis, are lung disease of older workers in the coal industry caused by inhalation over many years of small amount of coal dust.
जीवन ये प्रकाशित करने राहों को आलोकित करने हम अपना दीपक स्वयं बने, हम अपना रास्ता स्वयं चुने, हम अपना दीपक स्वयं बने, हम अपना रास्ता स्वयं चुने। जीवन ये प्रकाशित करने राहों को आलोकित करने
धन साधन समय की सीमा से विद्यालय जो मुक्त हो, धन साधन समय की सीमा से विद्यालय जो मुक्त हो।
कभी पढ़े हम कहीं पढ़े वे विषय की लोच से युक्त हो,
कभी पढ़े हम कहीं पढ़े वे विषय की लोच से युक्त हो।
मित्रों हम उठे और जागे,
मंजिल आने की ध्वनि सुने, हम अपना दीपक स्वयं बने, हम अपना रास्ता स्वयं चुने।
जीवन ये प्रकाशित करने राहों को आलोकित करने अवसर एक बार ही क्यों मिलता फिर दुनिया में इसके केंद्र बहुत
कोई मन चाहा केंद्र चुने हम अपना दीप स्वयं बने हम अपना रास्ता स्वयं चुने कोई मन चाहा केंद्र चुने स्वयं बने हम
Before taking a break, we are talking about heavy metal toxicity. We have discussed lead, mercury, cadmium, and arsenic, and we have also discussed occupational health hazards. And now we talk about another occupational health hazard, that is black lung disease. We know it's in coal mining area where coal dust is the main air pollutant to which miners are exposed every day. So deposits of coal dust makes miners' lungs look like black instead of pink, healthy pink. So that is the name. This disease name is black lung disease, and common name of this disease is pneumoconiosis or anthracosis. This is a lung disease of old workers in the coal industry caused by the inhalation over many years a small amount of coal dust. So although people who lived in cities often have some black deposits in their lungs, reason is polluted air, but coal miners have much more extensive deposits. The particles of fine coal dust accumulate in lungs as they cannot be destroyed within the lung or removed from them. Eventually this buildup causes thickening and scarring, making the lungs less efficient in supplying oxygen to the blood. So primary symptom of this disease is shortness of breath, which gradually get worse as the disease progresses. In severe cases, it may eventually causes heart failure. In some cases, a progressive massive fibrosis develops in which damage continues in the upper part of the lung even after exposure to dust has ended. Often some patients develop emphysema as a complication of black lung disease. X-ray can detect black lung disease before it causes any symptom. So patients who develop this disease at an early age or who have progressive massive fibrosis have a higher risk of premature death. How can we prevent? Only way to prevent is to avoid long-term exposure to coal dust, and coal mines may help prevent this condition by lowering coal dust level and providing protective clothes to coal miners. So now next we will talk about the noise, and noise is also one of the most common occupational health hazards. So noise exposure can cause two types of health effects like auditory and non-auditory. Auditory effect include hearing impairment resulting from the excessive noise exposure, and noise induced permanent hearing loss is the main concern related to occupational noise exposure. And non-auditory effect include stress and stress related physiological and behavioral effects. There are different sources of noises which we experience our day-to-day life. Learners, please recall noise pollution and its effect from lesson number 10 when we talk about environmental pollution. To prevent adverse outcome of noise exposure, noise levels should be reduced to acceptable level. So the best methods of noise reduction is to use engineering modifications to the noise source itself or to the workplace environment where technology cannot adequately control the problem. Personal hearing protection such as earplugs can be used. And personal protection, however, should be considered as an interim measures while other means of reducing workplace noise are being explored and implemented. So now we will talk about chemical hazards too during this program. So exposure to chemicals in the workplace can cause acute or long-term detrimental health effects, and there are many types of hazardous chemicals including neurotoxins, immunogens, dermatologic agents, carcinogens, reproductive toxins, systematic toxins, asthmagens, pneumatic agents, and sensitizers. So, common chemical hazards include skin irritation, disfiguring burn, eye injury or blindness caused by corrosive chemical products, toxic byproducts such as vapors and fumes caused by mixing incompatible chemicals, and serious burns from flammable solvents that catch on fire, injuries from exploding containers like spray cans, poisoning from accidental swallowing, especially with young children. Now we talk another health hazard, that is allergy. Sometimes we fumigate, inhaling fumes, skin irritation and severe burns. So we have talked pesticides, fertilizers, chemicals, heavy metals. So now we will mention here some allergens too, or allergy. First we will talk about allergy. Allergy occurs when a person's immune system reacts to substances in the environment that are harmless for most people. These substances are known as allergens and are found dust, mites, pets, pollens, insects, molds, food and some medicines. So here are some examples of allergens. Allergic reactions begins when allergen enter the body, triggering an antibody exposure or response. So this is the process. The first time an allergy prone person runs across an allergen such as triggered, she or he makes large amount of ragweed, IgG immunoglobulin antibody, where IgG molecules attach themselves to mast cells, and second time the person that has a brush with ragweed, the IE primed mast cell release granules and powerful chemicals mediator such as histamine and cytokines into the environment, and these chemicals mediators cause the characteristic symptoms of allergy. So depending on the allergen and where it enters in the body, different symptoms may be found, as you see here: nose and eye, throat, chest, skin and stomach. So they are the triggers. Triggers can be widely depending on the person. How some of the most common environmental trigger contains pollens, dust mites and mold spores, animal dander. Pollen from trees, grasses and weeds, especially during certain seasons. Dust mite, microscopic creatures that thrive on bedding and upholstery. Mold spores often found in damp areas like bathrooms or basement. Animal dander, which include skin plaques, saliva and urine from pets. There are several food triggers too. Common offenders include peanuts, tree nuts, shellfish, milk, egg, soy and wheat. So reactions can range from mild itching to several anaphylaxis. Insect and chemical trigger can cause serious allergic reaction. Latex found in gloves and balloons is a common trigger for sometimes. Sometimes medicines also get allergy. Medicines like penicillin or aspirin provoke allergic responses, and several other factors include genetics also play an important role. If allergies run into in your family, you are more likely to develop them, and pollution and smoking can worsen allergic reactions or make you more sensitive over the time. So before we wrap up, we would like to recap the main points. Many metals, heavy metal especially lead, mercury, arsenic, cadmium present in the environment are higher concentration, cause adverse reactions often leading to cancer and death. Workers in mines, stone quarries, some industries expose a lot of noise for varying length of time, and long exposure of sound more than 85 or 90 decibel may cause annoyance, disturb sleep, high blood pressure, and temporary to permanent loss of hearing. So dear learners, this is all about Environment and Health Part 2. We will come again to meet you in a new program of environmental science. Till then, goodbye and thank you.